Senator Beitman,
Excused.
Senator Cooper,
Here.
Senator Rothfuss.
Here.
Senator Wasserberger,
Here.
Chairman Anderson.
Here. We have a quorum? I guessed right.
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Welcome to the Minerals Committee meeting. Today, we're going to hear Senate File 152, Connection of Utility Services. And I believe we have a speaker that's going to open it up.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate your time today. Bringing Senate File 152, Connection of Utility Services. Committee members, this bill addresses a problem.
Would you state your name? There's some of us don't know who you are.
Dan Dockstetter, Senate District 16, sponsor of Senate File 152. Thank you. The bill addresses a problem that that kind of is in the early stages, perhaps for our state, but maybe not across the country. It's a concerning matter, and it could be a concerning matter for our state. As infrastructure develops, there's a small but growing trend to put fossil fuels by the wayside in the decision-making process for utility services. This is specific to communities working with their infrastructure and so forth. What we don't need to have happen in our state is a situation where we can't use those fuels. So what we have here is essentially a kind of a preemptive measure to help protect what is important to Wyoming and our mineral products. What Senate File 152 does is holds municipalities and counties accountable to those Wyoming products in terms of services offered and connection or reconnections of the infrastructure associated with those services. It's about striking a balance with the leadership of our towns and counties. The bill ensures that customer choices will not be limited at some time in the future. What this does is it helps keep energy prices and the cost low, while at the same time allowing customers their options and choices with energy. Especially, we've found that it helps in areas where we need to drop the price to make sure people can afford a home. When I started, members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, when I started putting this together, the thought was to work through public utilities, that section of our statute. Filing deadline was met. However, as we kind of reflected on it and looked at the overall picture, the codes associated with cities, towns, and county was a better direction to take this bill, and it came actually as a better fit under Titles 15 and 18. So thus you have the amendment in there too. But I thought I'd include that so you understand why you have both sheets out in front of you. So with that, Mr. Chairman and committee, I bring you Senate File 152, associated amendment. Essentially in 15, we prohibit any enacting ordinances for utility connections that prohibit electric, natural gas, or propane. And under 18, no resolutions opposing electric, natural gas, or propane. We're looking to make sure that essentially the natural gas product, propane products are still part of our growth in the future, Mr. Chairman. With that, I stand for questions. I have a few more words I'd like to say, but I'll pause there and see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any questions? Any questions? Yes, Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. President Dockstetter, a couple things here. I see a slightly different language between 18 and 15, and that's due to the fact that of the way counties govern rather than cities, ordinances rather than resolutions.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Cooper, that's my understanding, yes. But it still draws it into where it needs to be in those two new, in both 15 and 18.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, one
Yes.
more question. A city to the south of us recently proposed some ordinances that would prevent any new construction within their city limits from utilizing anything other than renewable wind or renewable electricity. And this is going to help us prevent those types of frivolous.
Mr. Chairman, Senator
Yes.
Cooper, that is correct. We're seeing a trend there, and we're trying to stay out in front of it and make sure we protect what is important to Wyoming within our communities and counties.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions for the bringer of the bill? Yes, Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions. The first is, what if it costs more? What if the policy that they have is just based on the idea, for example, you've got any two of these three, we'll say, and the third one wants to hook up, whichever one that might be, and the net effect is an increase in cost to the community. This would seem to preclude that, but it might not ever get into that, and I'm not sure whether that was discussed.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Rothfuss, we're not trying to eliminate anyone. Those resources, those possibilities that you're referencing would still be available. But what we're trying to do here is make sure they can't exclude these products of, for example, natural gas or propane. So if, Mr. Chairman, if that is the case, then we want to say that they want to go that route. If that's the cheaper route, they're not stopped from doing that, Mr. Chairman. They can still do that. We're just simply saying that they can't exclude these two products.
Senator Rothfuss, follow up?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, but if it seems to me that would be excluding if you said that, but at the same time, I don't think this ever happens, that there's ever an exclusion. I understand that it's the future situation, but I guess I'll ask the next question then, maybe as a means of getting at that. What statutory authority would provide a city, town, or county in Wyoming with having the ability to preclude a utility? Where would they draw that authority from? Because I think in other states, they have a lot more powerful city municipalities and counties. And do our municipalities or counties have that authority right now? If they said no natural gas in Niobrara County, we're done with it. Do they have any statutory authority to say that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I can't quote the statute on that, but it's my understanding under the scenario now that that could be part of a future decision.
Could it? Okay.
We're essentially, Mr. Chairman, Senator Rothfuss, we're protecting the very product that, one of the many products that makes this state so strong. As we see a trend that's starting across the nation, and I'll address a little more of that in just a moment, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess just one more is, and we always have the conversation about local control and balancing the individual interests of communities and counties with what the state wants. We hate it when the feds do it. If the feds came in and said you can't have natural gas, for example, we'd rail against that. We should. We're kind of doing the same thing, but we're doing it with something we like, and therefore we like it. And it's my understanding, and I guess I'd ask, is this accurate? This hasn't happened yet, but we're trying to contemplate a situation where it might happen and preclude the free choice of the communities or the counties. And I don't know why they would make the choice, but I mean, we're preemptively taking away authority from our communities, cities, towns, and counties. And I guess, are we comfortable with that? We always seem to be comfortable when we're taking away the authority of our communities.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
They still have that option. They can use all of them. We're just simply asking them that they don't eliminate propane or natural gas as part of that discussion. And that's some of the trend that we're seeing, and I'll address that in a few more comments here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes. Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're seeing a trend across parts of Wyoming already to limit the sales of certain products within cities, to limit the sales of certain packaging within different cities, because they fall outside of what some of those local people think is green, if you will. And so the trend is there, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm trying to understand if that's true, that's actually happening in cities within Wyoming right now. And this is the next logical step along that same line. So this protects where we're at state-wise, from precluding those kinds of limited sales. Is that correct, sir?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Doc
Senator
Senator.
Cooper, that is correct, and we are seeing that. You are right, Senator. I was at a convenience store in one of our Wyoming communities the other day, and a collection of snacks and sodas for another 4-hour drive, and they said, I said, can I have a bag or something? He said, no, can't. And I said, well, what are my options here? And they said, you can purchase a paper bag. And so I purchased a paper bag. And so, yes, you are starting to see changes. Yes.
Yes, Senator Rothfuss.
Well, I guess to follow up on that, while we may or may not agree with that choice, why is it incumbent upon the legislature to tell that community they don't get to make that choice? It's because we disagree with them. And again, that tends to be the case. Anytime they're doing what the majority of the legislature likes, we're fine with it. But if they have the audacity because their local views differ from the aggregate state views, that's unacceptable. We have to take away that authority. Is this another instance of that? And I can see us passing a bill in the not so distant future where we preclude that community from, again, having the audacity to charge you a nickel for that paper bag. We'll get them and we'll take that away because we want our plastic bags. Why can't they be right and different in their views?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator.
their choice is still there. It's just they can't eliminate and say that's not part of the choice. I felt like I kind of made that. Maybe I need to explain. They can still use the renewable resource should they choose. They just can't make an overall blanket statement saying, no, we won't use the fossil-based fuel. And I reused my paper sack several times, Mr. Chairman, for my 5 cents.
5 cents well spent. Thank you.
Any other questions? Other questions? Yes, Senator Cooper.
May I address Senator Rothfuss? It's a question of uniformity across commerce within the state is how I've been taught or recently informed. And I tend to agree with that. It's uniformity of marketing. If that particular store chooses not to do that on their own, that's their business. But to preclude it for other people steps outside of some pretty major personal freedom and commerce questions. That's how it's been put to me. Thank you, sir.
All right.
A little more comment if I could, please,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
certainly, Miss.
Members of the committee, at this point, 3 states have passed these preemptive laws similar to what we're seeing right now. 13 others are considering similar situation as we speak. And it's no surprise that many have, of those states that are considering it, have strong natural gas supplies as part of their energy portfolio. Ultimately, industry needs affordable energy and options to remain competitive. These options help attract business. We're saying to a provider of one of these resources, you can work. We're not precluding you from offering this as part of our business in our community. These options help with the state's economic outlook. What this bill does is protect all of our energy options for Wyoming. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Doc Setter. Is there any other comments from the public on this? Oh, hands everywhere. Come on forward.
Should I move?
Yeah, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Bruce Acey. I'm here today appearing on behalf of Montana Dakota Utilities Company, which is a subsidiary of MDU Resources Group, Inc. Montana Dakota provides natural gas service in northern Wyoming as well as electric service to the communities of Sheridan and surrounding areas. We speak in favor of this bill today, Senate File 152. We believe it is a good bill and sets forth a policy for the state in promoting thermal energy sources. And so we like it as a policy. We believe it is appropriate. In response to questions that have been asked, I would note that communities have authority over utilities such as Montana, Dakota, and the franchise authority, which is in the Constitution, that we can't provide services within the state unless we obtain a franchise. And those franchises are limited as is negotiated between the community and the utility. So this is something that a community could put into a franchise agreement if necessary, or if they wanted to. So we very much do support this. Also, I would note that as utilities, we do try to accommodate interests of consumers if they have a need or feel a desire to have green energy with respect to what they do. There are ways that we could promote that as part of utility services that we provide. One of the problems that we do have, though, is if a particular community was to enact a prohibition on certain types of fuel, since we are a system and we do provide system-wide utility services, to try to attempt to serve a community with a certain type of fuel or service to the detriment of everybody else would increase costs to the whole, while only benefiting the one community. So we believe, as part of providing services to the whole of our systems, that this would accommodate that and help with respect to that. So we do believe it's appropriate and we do support it. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Bruce Assey? Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Assey.
Thank you.
You're going to have, oh, yeah, okay. Make sure you're close to the microphone, please.
Thanks, Mike. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. David Bush with Black Hills Energy. Here in favor of this bill, as has been said, and I won't belabor the point too much, but this is something that we see as a preemptive piece of legislation. We serve 7 states across the United States with natural gas: Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, Arkansas, Kansas, and there have been efforts in communities in those states to do just this, to remove the ability for a homeowner, a restaurant, someone to put in a natural gas appliance. A lot of times it's done through building codes, which communities do have some authority over as well. So we see this as something that maybe it never comes to Wyoming, but there are some communities across the state that have talked about doing something when it comes to energy efficiency. Electrification is another term that gets tossed out quite a bit, moving everything to electric to avoid some of the carbon footprint that comes with natural gas. And the thing that to keep in mind as well, and I think Mr. Assey just kind of touched on that too, is the cost. Natural gas is a very cheap and affordable way to heat your home. When I was a new homeowner 15 years ago or so, that was one thing that was on our checklist at the top of the list, actually, was making sure your home had forced air heat, because electric heat was not very efficient and it was very expensive. And I think the big part for us too comes down to choice. Do we want to remove the choice for people to have natural gas in their home if they want it? If someone wants to go all electric, they can do that. If someone wants to have propane and have electric, they should be able to do that. I think it comes down to enabling people to make the choice that they feel is best for them when it comes to these sources of fuel, and not allowing a mandate to come down that blocks one particular fuel for someone's agenda or whatever they feel is best for those people. So this is something that we are, like I said, we're seeing in some other towns. A community to the south of us, in a state to the south of us, has done this. some others down in that state to the south have also started talking about these sorts of issues. So it's something that has been creeping in, and we just think it's important to keep the choice available and allow people the freedom to make the choice of what they want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. Any questions for Mr. Bush, committee? Any questions for Mr. Bush? Thank you, Mr. Bush. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. Pokes are up 59-45 at halftime.
Oh, good.
I knew that.
Oh, go, good. Go,
looking this way, I'm watching the game.
go Pokes.
We'd asked Mike if he could just cast the game on one of these TVs and for when the committee's done. But Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Sean Taylor with the Rural Electric Association. We're in support of this bill. We do have one rural electric cooperative that also is in the natural gas business. And we kind of come at this from a stranded asset. Our members wanted natural gas. And so the cooperative invested millions of dollars in pipelines and infrastructure. And for then one community or one county to be able to pass an ordinance that would strand those assets would be detrimental to the rest of the membership. So we're definitely in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any questions for Mr. Taylor? He's electrified if you want to ask a question. Any other comments?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Pete Obermueller, President of the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. We support the bill as well, Mr. Chairman. I've often said in testimony and in other public settings that if we are being realistic, it is quite possible that the market and or the government will shift, will force a transition in energy usage in the United States. My preference, our preference, of course, would be that the government does not accelerate any transition that the market is playing a role in. That's how we view this bill. There's really no reason to do it. We can argue about the broader policy implications, particularly as it relates to climate change. But I think, Mr. Chairman, that the market is playing a role here, and we don't believe the government should step into it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Obermueller. Any questions for Mr. Obermueller? One question I have, Mr. Obermueller, is are we limiting ourselves? We've got electric, natural gas, or propane. Is there any other fuels that we should be adding to that? I don't know of any, but I wouldn't want to leave
Mr.
anybody
Chairman,
out.
Quite frankly, Mr. Chairman, just hearkening back to President Dockstetter's comments, you could put that you could not ban any source of energy. That's sort of the point of it, is that the market will play a role in deciding on what sources of energy are being used. The issue is don't ban any one particular and let the price and the market and all that decide.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Senator Cooper.
With that thought, sir, there's a lot of industrial facilities that are utilizing waste oil or heavy crude, things that are marketable in other places, and they're utilizing that for heat or for energy within their facility. So maybe it's something that should be considered.
Other questions? Other questions? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Obermueller.
Chairman.
Thanks for being with us today. Anyone else? Anyone else to speak?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Rick Kaysen. I'm speaking on behalf of Rocky Mountain Power. Therefore, I will give you 4 of a kind from the utilities, if I may, and we stand in support of the bill as well. And not to be repetitive of what my colleagues have said, but this bill does allow some flexibility. It does not slam the door. It does provide some choices. So again, and not to be repetitive, I will not say that. Mr. Chairman, to your question, perhaps another fuel source, and this is going to be in the future, but hydrogen used as an energy source or geothermal types of resources as well could be considered in the future. And so with that said, Mr. Chairman, stand for questions that you or the committee may have.
Any questions? Any questions, committee? Hearing none, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kaysen. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jeremiah Reeman here on behalf of the County Commissioners Association. Since we're named in the bill, I thought we might at least offer a little bit of testimony. Mr. Chairman, I am joined in the room by Mr. Paul Bertolio, Natrona County Commissioner. So great to have him here. Mr. Chairman, I don't think it was implied, and I just want to make it abundantly clear that no county has or is considering anything of this nature. Our communities are pretty intertwined with all of the energy sources that are available in the state. Mr. Chairman, I think there's been some question about do the counties have this sort of power? And my answer would be no. Mr. Chairman, counties derive their power from the legislature, and you dictate to us what authorities we can exercise. And I'm not aware of any statute that would give us this authority. So I think this is unnecessary, but perhaps it is a belt and suspenders approach. And I understand that. Now, municipalities may have the power. As you know, they do have the powers of home rule, and that may give them the ability to do this. But at least in the county sense, we don't. Mr. Chairman, we don't come with a position on the bill. We're simply monitoring it, but I did want to offer that testimony and be available as, again, one of the entities that would be subject to this limitation.
Any questions for Mr. Ryman? Questions for Mr. Ryman? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Ryman, for your testimony. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, you have two members of the public virtually who would like to testify. You have Mr. Petrie, the Public Service Commission, and Ms. Murdoch.
Okay. Who's first?
Mr. Petrie with the Public Service Commission raised his hand first.
Okay, all right.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm Chris Petrie with the Public Service Commission. With me today are Deputy Chairman Mike Robinson and Commissioner Mary Throne. We just wanted to bring to the committee's attention that there have been some vaguely similar actions taken by cities and towns in the past. We know of at least 2 times that it's reached the Wyoming Supreme Court, and those are Vandehei Developers versus the PSC and KN Energy versus the City of Casper. These were not bans of any particular type of energy source or utility service. The Supreme Court did instruct us, though, in both of those cases, that the scope of the authority granted to the Public Service Commission by the legislature demonstrates a legislative intent that the police power of the state, to the extent that it relates to public utilities, shall be exercised by the PSC and to preserve none of that power to the municipalities. So when anything similar has come up in the past and reached the courts, the decision has been against the exercise of local government authority in vaguely similar matters. And I would also point out, though, that these Supreme Court decisions and the existing statutes would not have any effect on any municipal utilities. So the Public Service Commission's authority extends only to public utilities as defined in Title 37, it's 37-1-101, and that excludes municipal utilities. So for whatever complication that inserts, I apologize, but we think that the clarification here would, at the very least, potentially prevent misguided attempts and all the expense and delay that might attend that.
Thank you, Mr. Chris P., whatever your name is.
Petrie.
Petrie. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Petrie? Any questions? Sounds like the PSC is in favor of supporting us then. Okay, you had one more speaker?
Yes, Ms. Murdoch.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
All right, thank you. I am weighing in on the bill today on behalf of the Wyoming Business and Industry Federation. It is a coalition of larger chambers in the state. We are working together on business, on those business issues that impact our communities. We represent more than 5,000 businesses. And so I would say that, generally we always support free markets and the opportunity for choice for our businesses. But while we have some of our chambers that probably have stronger interest in their energy markets around fossil fuels, we also have chambers such as the Greater Cheyenne Chamber that is very invested in wind energy, which impacts our community here. So I would say we support all types of energy, and we would not want to preclude a choice of any energy. So I like that thought on expanding it to any energy so that a business can use any or all the above. If we have a business that specifically wants to use wind generation through a small turbine, we would hope that they would have the ability to do that. And likewise, if they wanted to install natural gas appliances or ovens, I can think of restaurants specifically, but we really would just like to preserve the freedom of choice. And you do see sometimes these types of issues are coming in through building permits or something like that. You don't see it in Wyoming, but you are starting to see it in other states. So I think we support the concept of the bill, and I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Ms. Murdoch. Any questions for Ms. Murdoch? Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, thank you. Thank you for being with us today, Ms. Murdoch.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you. Any others? Any others? Hearing none, we will close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved and seconded. We have a amendment to deal with also. Would somebody like to move the amendment?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would move standing committee amendment number.
Mr. Chairman, can that member please use their mic? We're not getting anything on YouTube.
Mr. Chairman, I would move standing committee amendment number 2 to Senate File 152.
And moved. Is there a second? Seconded by Beitman. Do we want to discuss the amendment? We want to discuss the amendment? Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the proper place, but this discussion on alternative fuels brought to mind a situation I was in several years ago in a state part of the East where they, it was a cement plant that was getting ready to close down because they couldn't afford fuel. They started sourcing used oil and a couple other products to fire their kilns with, and they were buying that product as it started. As it progressed, they went to allowing people to dispose of their products there. And as the product developed, they actually licensed themselves as an incinerator. And of course, they had to put scrubbers on and meet the regulations, but they licensed themselves as an incinerator, and they were taking waste products from several states around them and incinerating them in that cement plant and then using the energy in their kilns. And it turned the plant around from a closed industry to a very viable energy and a big profit center for the company. So if this kind of legislation will allow those kind of opportunities to progress, and I think it's really important. I don't know if we address this here to add any other types of energy, or do we move this forward and amend it in second reading? I'm not sure what the right answer would be.
We can modify it right here at this committee and take it to the committee of the whole. Does any- Yes, Senator Rothfuss.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say it would simply, for Senator Cooper's edification, it would simply be a motion to amend the amendment. You can only do that one layer deep, if that makes sense, but it's in order.
So Senator Cooper, would you like to put in or other energy sources or something like that? Natural gas, propane, or other energy sources?
I believe that's proper, sir. I'm not sure if that's the right language. Not sure. Turn back to your gentleman's experience on this. I'm a little bit too new to tell you what the proper language would be.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Senator Wasserberg?
on page 1 of the amendment,
Yes.
line 14, after gas, we would insert a comma, and then we would strike or. And then after propane, we would insert or, did you say other energy options or other
Energy sources.
energy sources? So then on line 21, we would strike or, insert comma after gas. After propane, we would insert or, no, that's not right. Or other energy. No, that doesn't work.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
where Senator Wasserberger was just going, if you stopped with or other energy such that it read an electric, natural gas, propane, or other energy utility service provided by a public utility, you've probably captured your intent. You could also strike the language and just say any energy utility service. A third alternative would be of an electric or thermal energy utility service. Any of those would probably capture, I think, what the objective is.
So how does that read,
I
Senator?
like or other energy source, because we don't want to specify whether it's geothermal or used oil or what it is.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. In
Okay,
that case,
after-
you wouldn't want to say source though, because
Oh,
it doesn't
okay.
fit with the construct. So it would have to be reconnection of an electric, natural gas, propane, or other energy utility service.
Okay.
And at that point, I believe it would, an energy utility service, I believe, would incorporate really regardless of where they source their energy, whether that's geothermal or waste oil or waste, solid waste, fuel, biogas, whatever you feel like.
So we just take source out of both lines, 15 and 21.
With regard to what Senator Wasserberger said with his proposed amendment to the amendment, yes.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on the amendment? You want to read it, Senator Wasserberger, what you have now?
Well, I'm not sure I have it correct, Mr. Chairman. So on page 1 of the amendment, on line 14, after gas, we insert comma, we strike or. After propane, we insert or other energy sources.
No,
And we're
Mr.
going to eliminate sources there
We're
or other
taking out sources.
energy utility.
That
Yeah,
works. That
exactly,
works.
Mr. Chairman.
And yeah,
That works.
yeah.
And then on line 21, after gas, we insert a comma, we strike or. After propane or other energy.
Right. That's
Yep,
it.
that's the amendment, and that's a friendly amendment, and I moved that amendment.
I
second
think,
that
I
amendment.
think somebody moved and seconded it already.
Okay. I moved the amendment.
Wasserberger moved the amendment. Oh, just the amendment.
Just
Yeah,
the amendment.
Okay, and
Now
the
we're on
amendment
the-
to the amendment.
Or either amendment to the amendment.
All right, you moved that. Who seconds that?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Cooper.
Actually, I think Cooper moved it and I seconded it.
Got it out of order.
We got it.
Whatever you want to do.
What's his motion?
Senator Dockstetter, are you okay with this friendly amendment?
Mr. Chairman, yes, agreeable.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the amendment to the amendment? Amendment to the amendment.
Question.
Hearing none. All in favor of the amendment to the amendment, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. That one squeaked by. Okay,
We're on
now
the
we're
amendment.
back to the amendment, the proposed amendment with changes. Any other questions on the amendment to the amendment? Hearing none, sensing you're ready to vote, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Now we're back on the
Question on the
bill.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just quickly noted this earlier. It's not my occupation, but I serve on a member-owned utility. I feel like I should say that for the record, but it's not my occupation. And for the record too, we offer multiple resources, renewable energy and fossil fuels.
Well, I'm glad you told us that. I don't know. I don't know what we do with this now.
For the record.
For the record, we got it on the record. Okay, any other questions on the main bill?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just a brief statement, not a question. I'm going to be a no vote, but not necessarily because I disagree with the objective here, just because I'm not enthusiastic about just preemptively trying to shut down local control when we haven't identified a problem yet. I'm usually not particularly happy about shutting down local decisions anyway. But in this instance, I don't know that the benefit outweighs us dabbling once again in what cities can do and counties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? It's been moved and seconded. Would you read the roll call, please?
Could I ask who made the motion to begin with? Who made the motion on the bill to begin with?
I don't know. I just wrote down moved and seconded.
I believe I did.
I think
Cooper?
Senator Cooper seconded it, but I didn't catch.
Wasserberger
Wasserberger, okay, thank you.
Wasserberger moved and
Okay,
Cooper seconded.
Cooper, thank you. Okay. This is for.
Any other information you want, we could make it up too.
Thank you. This is for Bill, Senate File 152. Senator Beitman,
Aye.
Senator Cooper,
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss,
No.
Senator Wasserberger,
Aye.
Chairman Anderson.
Aye.
The bill passes with 4 ayes and 1 no. It do pass amended, I'm sorry.
Folks are up 71-52.
Well, more than that, actually. I think that was a line. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
We were a little lagged on
Get
that.
more accurate.
Yeah.
All right, that's the only bill we had before us, and thank you for being here, all the audience, and thank you for your testimonies, and we will see you on Friday.
Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you.